morning, Gateway Rotary. What a good crowd today.
What a good president.
Oh, what a wonderful president.
No, seriously.
Oh, thank you. Let me sing a little song for you if we could. Just kind of get this. Tom, you always look at me like really like a father, so disappointed.
It could be for all I know.
All right, leading us in our flag salute today, my brother-in-law and one of our newest members, Robert Lehman.
Hey, fellow Rotary.
Oh wait, hang on, Robert. Oh, I gotta do
You gotta put up the pseudo flag.
There you go.
It's a real flag.
Side flag.
I have a flag. Take a flag.
Turn down.
Wow.
We have a flag. We just.
All right, here, let me.
You
can just do it.
Fellow Rotarians, please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
All right, here we go. We'll do it. There is an actual
Flag of the
flag.
United States of America.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There's a mouse switch.
Good job.
You want me to keep playing?
Okay.
Okay. All right, and leading us in the four-way test, Mr. Mike Bell.
Thank you. Let's go with the four-way test of the things you think, say, or do. First,
Is it true?
second,
Is it fair to all concerned?
third,
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
fourth,
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
and for us at this club, is it fun?
Yes, it is. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Robert. Okay, welcome visiting Rotarians and guests. Let's see, visiting Rotarians, do we have any? No. We have our latest prospective member candidate, Ms. Kim Negro. Any other 10 minutes? No, we're good there? Okay, good. My announcements, let's see, what do we got there first?
We're not moving. You're talking Paul Harris, right?
What's that?
There's nothing on the slide next one.
Okay, all right. So up next, Mr. Eric Rowe, would you please join me up front?
It's like bulbous is going around.
It is. It's a very common disease.
Really?
Did you write down?
Sorry. Do your pre-work?
Yeah, I can go.
It's the small motors go through.
Really?
Yeah, that's right. Right after mental health.
All right, I won't get it on you. But today we recognize Eric for his Paul Harris +4.
Yay!
For those who may not know, Paul Harris is an achievement of a level of $1,000. And so for every additional $1,000, you get another Paul Harris. And so, congratulations. Well done.
Next one.
Okay, slate of officers. So this is the time of year where we start planning for our following year. Of course, we know that Ms. Anita Sell will be our president. Following Anita's footsteps, Spencer Zeman. I don't think Spencer is here today.
He is unable to make it.
Unable to make it? Okay, I know he's had the cred for a little while. And then you will see our list up there, which will be vice president on our slate of officers, Dave Dusick. Jerry is committed to another term at Sergeant at Arms. That's what I was told anyway. That's okay. Mike Dahl is treasurer, Janine Zell secretary, and Miss Grace Kendall, director at large. So next week, of course, we won't have a meeting. And we'll have another meeting on December 4th, but on December 11th, we will have no speaker. We will have our club assembly. Really important to be here because we need at least 1/3 of our club here to make this vote. And we will have a vote on the table, and we will make sure that we then process our slate of officers. If you are not going to be there, I'll make sure that there's an electronic form so that, is that legal? Do it? Sure. Okay. So that's what we do. Post-pandemic rules.
Hey, Mike, I have a question for Nathan.
Yes.
What did you do to Mike Bell's picture?
I changed it. That's from when he came back from Africa. I mean, from India.
Just checking.
Yeah.
I thought maybe he had that disease or something. Okay, good. So that's slate of officers. And then Sylvia, would you like to come up and talk about the Christmas families?
Good morning, Gateway. It's always a great day at Gateway when you're present.
I appreciate it.
So we are supporting two families this year. First family is a family of 2. The second family is a family of 8. They are Troy Oliver's families from North Thurston School. I don't know if you know that. I'm working with Lindsay.
I do now, thank you.
You're welcome. So you can just give me money, you can give me cards, you can give me gift cards, and Amanda and I will do all the shopping and the wrapping to make it easy for you. $5 goes a long way. These families are very low income families, and so Gateway Rotary is going to bless 2 families. I'm so excited. And then the second announcement, if you could raise your hand to let us know if there's an interest in a Christmas gathering during the week, not on the weekends. Show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
December 9th or 16th?
December 9th is a Monday, and December
16th
16th
also a Monday.
is also a Monday. Would that work for anybody? Okay, on a Monday. We're on.
All right.
Thank you.
Details to follow, but it will be at my house. It'll be just kind of a stand-up, appetizers. We can make it kind of an open house for 2 or 3 hours, so come and go as you wish.
Okay, Mike, can
Yes.
you just do a show of hands for the 9th or the 16th so we can
Okay,
figure it out?
preference the 9th. 16th,
Don't care.
don't care? All right, good, all right.
Announcement, intro, right?
Mhm.
Intro?
Yes, intro. Well, and before I introduce Eric, Marilyn, welcome back. Good to see you. Marilyn will be off most of December, I think, for her surgery, but keep her in our thoughts. All right, well, I'm excited to have our sheriff, Sheriff Dereck Sanders, with us today. Dereck served the citizens of Thurston County as a deputy for 6 years before securing an election win to become Thurston County's 24th sheriff. Sheriff Sanders ran on a platform of improving employee morale, greater office transparency, introducing technology-based solutions for problems facing our community. During his tenure as a deputy, he engaged in community service events, was awarded the Medal of Valor and 2 life savings awards, and was routinely commended by both victims and those suspected of committing crimes for his relentless effort to solve crime while respecting the rights of both parties. Sheriff Sanders prides himself on being known regionally as a crime magnet, regularly finding himself in the middle of active police work. If you follow his Facebook page or even the Thurston County Scanner News, you'll see Dereck and his activities quite often on there. Worked for both as a deputy and sheriff. Pulling from childhood experiences, Sheriff Sanders maintains high expectations of both state and county improvement in the areas of domestic violence, homelessness, and poverty. Sheriff Sanders enjoys working on cars, boating, and engaging with community members, and was recently married this past August. So please welcome Sheriff Dereck Sanders.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me out here. It's pretty early for me. When I set my alarm this morning at 5:30, I was like, all right, that's how Gateway does it. It's gonna be another early one. I'm still a night bird at heart. I was a graveyard deputy for most of my career, so I'm still trying to get used to day shift stuff 2 years in. I appreciate you guys having me back. Last year when I came and presented, I gave some of the situation that the sheriff's office was in. So historically, the things to keep in mind is that Thurston County Sheriff's Office, until this year, was the 2nd worst staffed sheriff's office in the entire state, despite being in the capital. So we sit at about 0.6 deputies per 1,000 citizens, which means that on any given night, even though we're responsible for 150,000 people, we typically have 7 deputies working. Which means nights like last night, when you've got, more trees on the roadway than deputies, they spend a lot of time running back and forth. And I just want to acknowledge we've got former sheriff and current county commissioner Gary Edwards in the house as well. And Gary knows this battle because him and I talked about it when I first took over. He said, you're taking over the same problems I had. Good to know, because it's been a while since you were in office as sheriff, Gary. So the other piece that I had to work with is that we had terrible facilities. So our deputies work out. We don't have enough space to put all of our deputies in one spot. So I've got detectives and myself working at the courthouse, which was built like 20 years before I was born. We've got Prosecutor Teenheim in the back as well. He's still working in the courthouse with me, so he knows. And then I have all my patrol deputies working out of an old playground factory in Tumwater. Both buildings are leaking. our evidence emporium, we have our sexual assault kits, and we've got rain buckets collecting rainwater inside the evidence emporium that's supposed to be secure. Just a lot of issues going on with that. And then the third piece is that Thurston County Sheriff's Office, most people don't recognize the funding structures of county government versus city government. We're also the lowest paid agency in the region. So I had a hard time recruiting people and, say, come make less money with less staffing. You're gonna go to violent calls by yourself and work out of crappy buildings. But I need you to come do it because you really love the job. And so, despite this, when I took over in office, I got really good support from our county commissioners. Obviously, last year we passed the public safety tax. Voters pretty overwhelmingly approved that sales tax increase. And we went from an agency that was really poorly staffed to now we have filled all of our vacancies this year. On top of that, we got 9 new deputy sheriff positions this year. We have filled all of those. And next year we get 18 more. So all in all, we're going to end up getting 27 new deputy sheriffs. The thing to understand is this was a heavy lift, I think, by our background investigators, by the public for approving the sales tax, right? Every time you're going and spending $10, you're helping support the sheriff's office. You're siphoning off 2 pennies to go to the sheriff's office. Even with all of that said, we're so far behind, that still puts us as, I think, the 6th worst staffed sheriff's office in the entire state out of 39. But you know what? I will take that. That is a win for me. One of the biggest issues I had, and it's most prevalent on the west half of the county. If you take our county and split it in half from downtown Olympia down to Tenino, because that's kind of how the county is quadranted out. If you take Summit Lake, Cooper Point Road, Steamboat Island Road, West Olympia, all the way down to Maytown, 93rd, all the way out to Capitol Forest, to about Little Rock Elementary School, that's 1 deputy. So at any point in time, you've got 1 deputy who's traversing that's probably 200 square miles. And then if you go south of that, if you get the bottom half of Capitol Forest, Gate Road, Moon Road, out to Rochester, Grand Mound, Tenino, Bucota, up to Offutt Lake, all the way to Military Road, that's 1 deputy. So those 2 deputies on the west half of the county, they're each other's backup. So if you take a robbery with a gun at the credit union in Steamboat Island, you're gonna have 1 deputy who, depending on where they are in the district, is going 130 miles an hour to get there. And then you've got a deputy probably coming from Rochester or Tenino, trying to get up to that credit union as well. And that's a good 30 miles-ish. So when you see the black and white sheriff car going 130 miles an hour on I-5 going northbound, that's because those 2 deputies, they're the help. They go back and forth and they back each other each night. And so that was my biggest complaint in the office that I was taking over. It wasn't the poor facilities, it wasn't the pay, it was the fact that we've got deputies going way too fast and they're still going to violent calls by themselves. And so what I've been telling the county commissioners, I didn't have to tell Gary twice, but we're not really that good, we're just lucky. We've just gotten really lucky that we haven't had, the big mistakes. On top of that, for a while there last year, we were down to 31 working deputies for 150,000 people. So 31 deputies have to fill 10 shifts. Each team has 5 shifts on each team. So most of our deputies working about 100 hours overtime per month to make that work. So they're tired. Last year we had to slash all of our training to make do with our budget. I mean, there's all these different constraints, and the public safety tax has alleviated a lot of that. It's going to fix a lot of our issues. It's going to allow me to make sure that I don't have to choose between training and staffing the road, between training and paying overtime, all those types of things. So that piece I'm pretty excited about. We've got more deputy sheriffs working for the agency right now than we ever have in the history of the office since 1852. So with that, I think it's a big win for unincorporated taxpayers. But if you live in the cities, what you'll recognize is that Washington State is the worst staffed state in the entire country for police officers. We're ranked 51 out of 51 behind the District of Columbia as well. So even when we look at agencies like Lacey Police Department and Olympia Police Department, who technically have a higher officer per citizen capita, they're still requesting assistance for us regularly, and we're trying to help each other back and forth. So more county deputies means more county deputies can help with city issues as well when they arise. Yes, sir.
So just on that point, you mentioned a couple of times where this county rates compared to the other counties in the state for that ratio. So what's the median point in this state? In other words, if you were to, as a business goal, say we want to be halfway up that list, what would that ratio look like?
I believe it's closer to point. It's almost 1 deputy per 1,000. Obviously, the scale of economy on this means that the smaller the office, the larger the officer per capita. So when you look at it, of course, like the worst staffed sheriff's offices in the state are the largest ones. You're looking at Spokane County, King County, Pierce County, Snohomish County. what's tough for us is that we're the 6th most populous county. We actually have, our county is structured in a way where we actually we're responsible for a lot of the citizens in this county, half of them. Half of them live in unincorporated county. You've got actually agencies like King County that most of the citizens live in a city. So it's a little bit different of a structure, but it's disappointing for me that we're the 6th most populous and the 2nd worst staffed. That's a ratio that doesn't make sense to me. We have a lot of citizens that we're directly responsible for. And most people don't recognize that Pierce County is actually the largest sheriff's office with the largest unincorporated population. Because if you think about Parkland, Spanaway, all the contract cities and those, they're responsible for like 450,000 unincorporated citizens. And Pierce County is going through the same thing we're going through. Very low staffing levels. Everyone's struggling in that. Yes?
You may know the answer to this, you may not, I'm not sure, but we are talking about it right now, so you might be actually an expert at it. Where in the United States are we actually staffed enough and covering all of our law enforcement? Does it actually exist? Or is all the griping and moaning, I hear about it from coast to coast, north to south, east to west, the same in every single city in every county in the entire country? What's happening with law enforcement? Or is we just not hearing from the ones that are doing well?
Well, I mean, if you look at, there's a lot of theories, and I've talked to the prosecutor about this as well, is that, it's hard to measure success sometimes in law enforcement. We struggle with it.
I'm just talking about staffing.
I understand, but staffing is related to success. So the issue that we have, right, is that when a well-staffed area has a police officer that drives by a business 3 times a night, and that business isn't burglarized, is that success? How do we measure it? How do we measure the burglaries and the homicides and the stolen guns and the pursuits that never occur? That's really challenging. What we look to, I think, instead is areas like New York. Now, I've heard complaints out of New York for different reasons, but New York has one of the highest officer per capita ratios. They also have some of the lowest crime rates currently. So it's tough to say, and there's other social factors that play into this. There's poverty. There's socioeconomic factors that tie into domestic violence and those types of things. But I think the bigger issue is that sometimes law enforcement has shot itself in the foot because the really funded, well-funded areas are also complaining about not having enough. And I don't know, it could be true. But what I do know is that it's sitting at the bottom of the pile. We definitely feel like our gripes are validated, right? I mean, when I've got a deputy who's going 130 miles an hour to get on scene at a domestic violence assault and then having to fight people by themselves and take them into custody, I really feel like our gripe is a little bit stronger than maybe New York's because they didn't have a 37th officer on scene for a shoplifting or something like that. So I think that's where we're trying to figure out like where is the correct gripe. But I think across the country, one of the pieces that is always going to be an issue is officers feel like they're making really quick decisions no matter where they work. They feel like they're making decisions that are difficult and quick and rapidly evolving, and none of them want to go to prison for making a mistake or having something that is perceived to be a mistake. And so that piece is always going to be a thing, the officer accountability side of things and what's justified, what isn't justified. And that's always going to be a work in progress for us. So I think we need to find success for us. It's really, for me, I'm really starting at like the very bare minimum. Like, let's get a second deputy in every district so that every deputy in this county, 24 hours a day, has a backup officer. That's my first tier goal of how we're going to achieve success for my administration. So with that being said, despite some of our challenges, we've managed to fill every single vacancy. And to me, that's probably my proudest achievement at this point, because every time we want to do something in this county, every time we want to start up a new program, it's always coming back to the same issue, where who's going to do the work? Without the resources, you can't do the work. So with that being said, the office itself is doing much better. Morale seems to be higher, but with that has also come with scrutiny, right? We're pursuing cars again. We've had people pass away in car pursuits. We've had suspects get injured. Those ones I'm less concerned about because they're the ones who are opting into this process. They always have a say whenever we turn the red and blue lights on. That is a signal to pull over. Where I get bent up, obviously, is when someone's going, shopping and they're trying to get home and they get sideswiped or T-boned by a fleeing driver and they're killed by the driver. It is a homicide. It is an issue where that person has committed a murder, but it is impossible for that deputy who's trying to get that person stopped not to feel horrific about the incident. So, we've had some successes. We've also had a lot of scrutiny, and that's part of our job in law enforcement. It's built into the paycheck. So, we're still dealing with that. I did say when I ran for office that this is going to be a technology-based agency, but that's the direction we're heading. I did fight really hard to get those car chase laws passed, but I've also fought really hard with the Board of County Commissioners to get support to try new technologies and try new alternatives to these high-speed chases and things like that. So, we've got these grappler devices on our vehicles now. We've got GPS darts that shoot out of our vehicles to track fleeing cars. We're still using spike strips. We've got all these different things to try and mitigate some of that risk. And so we're still working on that. The problem that we're having, of course, is that when the no chase laws went into effect in 2021, we immediately saw an explosion in stolen cars. And the problem is that people who steal cars run in them because they don't care about the car. They do not care if that car gets smashed up. And the days of chop shops are gone. Billy's not stealing a car. He's not stealing a 2019 Kia to take it to a chop shop. They steal the car. They immediately commit as many crimes as they can in that stolen car because it's a really good tool. We can't track them. We don't know who it belongs to. We don't know who's driving it. And then they ditch the car or they wreck it, do whatever they want with it. And that makes it really hard to track people across their crime sprees. So from 2021 to 2024, we used to sit at about 25,000 stolen cars a year. Last year, I think we peaked at 54,000 stolen cars. We have more stolen cars in Washington State than Florida does, and Florida has 3 times the population. So we rank as one of the worst states in the country when it comes to auto theft per capita. I think we're top 3. And we're only behind a few, I can't remember what the states are that are ahead of us. So on top of that, from 2021 to 2024, every year since that law went into effect, we saw double-digit fatality increases in non-pursuit related collisions. So we used to sit at about 500-ish fatal crashes a year. Last year we had 810 fatal crashes on our roadway. So we're seeing this explosion in fatal crashes, an explosion in stolen cars. This year, voters dropped off 400,000 signatures with the legislator and said fix the no chase issue. But now the problem is the cat's out of the bag. We still have cars driving around however they want. Everyone in here can probably give me a story about how they were stuck in traffic on I-5 and someone went 70 down the shoulder. There's no cop behind them. It's not a pursuit issue, right? It's not something I refuse to believe this is an issue that we've created in law enforcement. We were told not to do something. It got really bad for 3 years, and now we're trying to figure out how best to fix that problem. And so the only good news is, at least on the stolen car, I think, no coincidence, of course, this is what I'm being told, but this year we're probably going to see a significant drop in stolen cars. We anticipate it dropping down maybe all the way back into the 20,000s this year, right when the no chase law goes right back into effect. So just by changing the law, even though some agencies aren't even chasing, but just by changing that law and changing the dynamic around it and telling people it's illegal again to run, I think we're already going to see stolen cars fall off the map because you're cutting out a huge segment of people who stole the cars because they knew they could get away. Now there's at least a looming cloud of accountability over their head. So I saw a hand over here. Yes, sir.
Yeah, on the other side, I think there's a logistical problem that maybe we've all faced where you see something sketchy or weird and do I call 911 or not? And my guess is your dispatch gets a lot of weird calls that a decision has to be made quickly. Is this rise to the level that one of my officers has to go or not? And what are the alternatives? And things that come to mind is somebody unconscious in downtown Olympia. I mean, that's a 911 call, but seeing somebody driving erratically on the Nisqually heading south, is that a 911 call to say somebody ought to watch for this guy?
I think so,
Okay.
because you never know what the context is. I'll give you an example. People get really frustrated when they call 911, they say, hey, there's a suspicious person in my neighborhood, and then a police officer never shows up. Now the reality is, once again, we have very few police officers per capita. So one thing that citizens just have to accept off the bat is that nowhere else in this country per capita are you less likely to see a police officer driving down the road. Which means that because we still have emergencies occurring, they're off doing the emergent stuff. But one thing I will tell you is that every time you call 911, that is logged in CAD. So when you call 911 and you say, hey, I got a suspicious vehicle, here's a license plate, it's in my neighborhood, I don't know what's up with it, but just so you know, you may not get an officer who responds to that, but it's still logged in the system. So that the next day when we take a robbery or we take a cold case homicide and we find a dead body and we're able to tie that car in your neighborhood because we searched the plate and said, oh wow, it was dropped off here. Then we get to tie the time that you called in to the plate, and then we get to go look for video footage and oh look, your neighbor's got our suspect on a ring camera. That's a lead. That's a lead that we would never have if you never called in. I recognize it may be frustrating if an officer never shows up because they're dealing with trees down on the roadway and stuff like that. But all of that stuff is logged and it's captured in a way that is basically frozen in time for us to go back and build. It allows us to build a profile when we have major cases. Same thing with, yeah, I got this reckless vehicle, but every time I call, nothing happens. Well, that could be the reckless vehicle that just took off from a robbery, an armed robbery in downtown Olympia, and we're looking for it. And by you calling in, you've given us the tip that put eyes on the vehicle. So I always encourage people, when in doubt, you can always call and report something. Sure, it may not rise to the level where it gets an officer to respond out there, maybe they're too busy. I can tell you that for our deputies, as long as they're not busy, which is not often, but when they have the chance, they'll go out. I've never seen our deputies be like, oh, I'm not gonna go check on that suspicious vehicle. They'll always leave it on the screen. Maybe it's an hour or two later, they'll always go out and look and check on the vehicle and try to figure that out. Yeah.
What is, you referenced the grappler.
Yes.
How does that work?
So the grappler device, as far as terminating high-speed chases, it's my favorite device. We just got one this morning again that fled out in Rainier. But essentially, it replaces the push bumpers on our cars. It looks like a set of push bumpers, but it's got a toggle switch, and when it's ready, you lower it, and it folds out, and it's a net. And then instead of conducting a pit maneuver where you've got to get into the oncoming lane or get onto the shoulder to find some space, and then typically the car is spinning out, going all different directions, you drive the net under the suspect's vehicle, and the net wraps up and tangles up the car and locks up the rear end, and then it's got a tether that stays attached to the patrol car so you can slowly bring it to a stop. We've had 2 deployments. I haven't seen it this morning yet. It's real fresh, so I know that the truck got spiked a couple times and ended up rolling, so I don't know what happened with that one. The first one was a Honda Civic, and it looks like the fender, it was too low to the ground, so the fender ate the net up and it snapped, but it still sent the car off into the woods and we got the guy. So I ended the pursuit. My big thing with pursuits, and popular or not popular, whatever it is that I want them over as soon as possible. The big concern I have with pursuits are long, sustained, high-speed chases, blowing through red lights. And obviously on our end, like, we don't blow through the red lights, but we don't get to control what a suspect does, or how much they care about their fellow neighbor blowing through red lights and things like that. So for our deputies, my direction to them is we don't want long, sustained car chases. Either terminate or get them stopped. It's one or the other. We don't want these big, long, drawn-out issues. So technology like the grappler is going to help us out big time. Star Chase, we haven't had any successful deployments with that because it's not as good in the rain. Most of our deployments have come in the rain, but my big thing is I'm willing to try anything to try and get these people safely stopped and held accountable, because I think a big piece of crime is the mentality piece of it, and it's the opportunity. If I know I can run, I'll just keep doing it. Whereas if there's some accountability piece to it, again, I think we're going to see auto thefts fall off the map just from changing the law. Just the idea that police will pursue for a stolen car, I think is going to take away a bulk of these people who are like, oh, I'm just doing it because I can get away. And the fact that we put a lot of the juveniles into jail for some of those juvenile summertime crimes that occurred. They just kept stealing Kias, driving them through the front of a business, taking all the cannabis out of the business, and fleeing in a second Kia. And of course, we're seeing, some businesses are just flat out being denied insurance policies because they've had multiple smash and grab burglaries. So not a good system. Yes, sir.
So having just served on jury duty at that fine building up on the hill.
Yes.
And I find it ironic we have a sheriff here, we have a county commissioner, and we have a prosecuting attorney here. Is there any update on, because that building is tired, put nicely, it's tired. Is there what's the update on either renovation or relocation? Because I know some departments are no longer there, assessors, auditors, those things. Any update there?
I would have to defer to the county commissioner because they're the ones really working on that piece. I know that they're exploring a number of different options up on the hill. Our big piece was through the public safety tax, we're leaving that building. So we're getting our own building. I'll be able to put all my staff in one building, which I think a lot of police departments, we're kind of talking about success across police departments and complaints. Running an office where detectives and deputies don't even see each other is a big challenge. There is no cross-pollination of information beyond an email. There's no camaraderie. There's no team building. There's no, hey, good job on that burglary last night, just so you know, I also arrested him last week. None of that goes on for us because our employees work 10 miles away from each other. So we're in the process of securing a building in Tumwater, over by Tumwater High School, where we'll have all of our people in one spot. We'll have secure parking for deputies. I mean, it's the small things that I think go a long ways for them. And it's those kinds of things that I think have really attributed to why all of a sudden the sheriff's office doesn't have hemorrhaging retention problems anymore. The year I ran for office in 2022, we lost 15 deputies. The next year I lost 5. And then this year I only lost 3. So we're slowly getting better as people are staying and like, oh wow, like the county's taking care of us, the community cares, like this is a good place to work. It's all the little things that build up. Yeah.
A dumb question. Are people not locking their cars in Thurston County and therefore they're stolen more easily?
It's a combination of things. It used to be the Honda Civic because it's really, I think most of the time it's a manufacturer default. Honda Civics are pretty easy to steal. 1999 to 2004 was a real bad year for Honda.
Locked or not?
Locked or not, you can pop it's not easy to get a jimmy stick in there, pop the door, and then use a shade key to start the car. It's the same thing for the F-250s of like 2004 to 2008, or F-250s I should say. And then obviously same thing with the Kias. So from like 2018 to 2023-ish, you could start them with a USB cord and an iPhone. So as long as you could get into the car, you could pop the car door, get in there, and start it up with your iPhone. And it went viral on TikTok was the problem. So kids found out that they could do this, and they're like, where do you go from, hey, we can joyride a car, to let's go 50 miles an hour to the front door of a business, and then use a second stolen car to flee at a high rate of speed from the police, is a pretty big jump in criminal behavior. So I thought I missed a hand from someone.
You answered it.
Oh, okay, good. So those are some of the things that we're working on. The big thing for me, a lot of what my focus is right now is traffic safety. For me, I tell my deputies all the time, we've got to stay vigilant when it comes to things like guns and stuff. A lot of our car chases are dealing guns right now. Stolen guns, convicted felons, and possessions of guns. The last time we took a pit maneuver on someone, a rifle case got ejected from their car when they crashed into the tree. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. There's guns everywhere right now. But still, nevertheless, my big issue, my big concern is just driving to the store and getting schmucked by an impaired driver. I already got hit by an impaired driver. I got to walk away from mine. Most of the victims that I see aren't walking away from it. They're getting transported to the hospital, or they're being killed. About half of our traffic fatalities in this state every year are due to impaired driving. So the DUI driving is a huge deal. That includes narcotics, and so it's just one of those things right now where I guess it feels like criminals are really desperate in a lot of ways. And so I don't know what all is tying into it. I know we got a lot of politics going on. I know there's a lot of socioeconomic factors going on. Inflation is high. But the desperate, it just feels more desperate. And we've seen that with some of our traffic fatalities and pursuits as well. Not all pursuits are created equal. We've had O.J. Simpson style pursuits, which I think everyone can acknowledge aren't super dangerous, where you're like, all right, this guy's just not wanting to pull over. We've also seen ones where you've got a Dodge Charger going 130 down Tumwater Boulevard, and you're like, what is this? And they're already driving recklessly when we contact them. So we've just seen a lot of this really, really recklessness, like extreme recklessness, going 70 down the shoulder when 95's at a standstill. Those are the things that almost always end up in serious injuries or fatalities. And the problem that I have is that the suspects, the people who are driving reckless and the impaired drivers, they always win the battle of physics because they're always going faster. The victims are usually not going as fast, they're usually obeying the laws, and these people who are going, triple the speed limit are going to win the physics battle.
It seems obvious why we put shot spotter into municipalities. Can you comment on why shot spotter is being pulled from municipalities? It seems like it would be an effective technology tool with the reduced staff.
So ShotSpotter is a technology that's primarily used in cities, not the county, because shooting is legal in the county, so ShotSpotter would go off all the time. But it's essentially, they set up a series of microphones across the county, across the city, really, really advanced microphones. And when shootings occur, it generates a very blanket 911 call to officers. So if a drive-by shooting occurs and the microphone picks up gunshots, it will tell them approximately where the shooting occurred. So in cities like Tacoma, where they take a shooting almost every night, they've got these ShotSpotter pieces of technology. Honestly, I watched a piece of that newsreel. That's in Tacoma, so we don't have that here. We don't have ShotSpotter. But from what I could tell, it was the concern was that it would lead to over-biased policing. But I guess my counter to that is that it's the most unbiased form of policing possible because it's just reporting a fact. Hey, we've detected a gunshot. And so it's hard for me to connect the two. And the concern up there is that it would lead to over-policing of Black and brown communities by introducing the technology. So not really my argument. We don't have ShotSpotter here. The newest thing that we've been putting in here are the flock cameras. I have not had success getting those installed, but the city of Olympia, the city of Yelm, Chehalis Tribal, and Nisqually Tribal all have them, and those are license plate reader cameras. So basically they sit on a fixed section of the roadway, and they capture every plate that runs through, and then they filter it. So they filter the license plates out. So if it's a stolen, it gets sent to all the deputies' computers and all the officers' computers and lets them know, hey, a stolen car just drove through Marvin Road. The concern, obviously, is that if you're not driving a stolen car, it still captures your information, holds it for 30 days, and then deletes it. So it's not running you or anything like that. It's just keeping that information there. The other cool thing about it is that you can add in things like a detective could put in like a rape suspect. So hey, we have a rape suspect who left in this vehicle, and then anytime that car drives through one of those cameras, every law enforcement agency who's with the program gets the notification in the county, which allows us then to converge on the area and take that suspect into custody. I think that those pieces of technology are very valuable, especially in areas that have a low officer per capita because of an extra set of eyes. So it allows us to really prioritize the high-level felony crimes and know where those are occurring. I think that if we put those cameras across the entire county, it would be eye-opening to see just how many stolen cars are driving through the county, just how many murder suspects, assault suspects, those high likely, high violent encounters and stuff like that. So as of right now, we don't have them. They're actually relatively cheap too. I think for 20 cameras, we got the bid for $50,000 a year, which in the grand scheme of things is pretty low in cost. It's why some of these agencies are starting to opt for them. It allows officers to really focus on pieces.
We have time for about 2-3 more questions.
Yeah, perfect.
Homelessness, how are we doing with that across the county? It appears to be coming down, but it could just be my perception.
I think that the municipalities in the county are doing a good job of getting people housed, which in my opinion is a huge first step. It's really hard for me to expect people to recover from whatever illness or whatever issue that they're having if they don't have a place to stay. You know, I was homeless as a kid and it was dreadful. It was awful. It was not a fun experience. And so really our lives didn't start to stabilize until we had a place to stay. Once we had a place to stay, well then, you know, mom can work on the job and those kinds of things. For the county perspective, we don't see a lot of homelessness. I'm responsible for unincorporated county. So when you drive to downtown Olympia and you see homeless people, that's not me. I'm responsible for everything outside of the cities. So for us, I would say that most of the homelessness are not out in unincorporated county. Of course, we have some areas out like Market Way that are still our section. And we've got some homeless people out there, but honestly, the deputies know most. I mean, we've got such a small population compared to the cities that I think our deputies who work those districts know most of them by first name. Like, hey, John, you know, is everything okay? All right, well, you know, you can't, they don't want you here, so you go over there, you know. I mean, a lot of it for those individuals is we're just moving people around until they can find a bed for them. You know, a lot of I think one of the big things I think that I would attribute to seeing less homeless people on the street are the success of areas like Coyote Village, the small tiny home villages that they're starting to build. To me, that's probably the most viable solution that I've seen so far, because those villages hold people accountable, but also make sure they have a home over their head. There's structure, there's curfews and things like that help people start to build a life of structure, I guess. And there's also an opportunity for, I think, for those individuals to really have access to like the resource hub and things like that, so they can start trying to find gainful employment. There's treatment options that they can get into and things like that. So I'm a big proponent of the tiny home village stuff. I think it's working. And then I think there was one last question that I missed.
Thank you so much. So, and Gary, thank you for coming. I ran into Gary a week or so ago and said, hey, you should come to this meeting. And Dereck, you know, you touched on Coyote Villages, now New Horizons, I think is your new name. So New Horizons, formerly Coyote Villages, formerly Camp Coyote, will be here on December 4th. So another good program for us. So let's see, today, Mr. Dave Dusak will be filling in, shining on as our Sergeant at Arms. David?
That's okay. Please take your seats. That's all right. Another round of applause for Sheriff Sanders. That was fantastic. But you know, there's one thing you never bring up, which you know should be addressed, is you know people who wear pajamas in public. I'm telling you, this has got to be talked about because those folks need mirrors. Yeah. I can see the nonprofit now. Yeah, Randy said fair to that.
The number per 100,000 is triple here than any other county.
Right. Yeah, we are way under mirrored here. Yeah. I can see the telethon now. Yes. Okay.
And camouflage pajamas, what's that all about?
Exactly.
We can see them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're more therapy for Jerry. There we go. Yes. I think we're making progress. We should meet again next week. Okay. All right, and I'd like to thank Nita Sell for bringing me into the board. This is what happens when you miss a meeting, apparently. Thank you, Nita. Yes, okay. And I don't know if anybody else noticed this. We have a 3-mic meeting. Yeah. Raise your hand if you're a mic. There we are. We made it.
You're holding it's actually 4.
Jared will run with that.
I'm sorry, did you want to do this?
No, I wouldn't.
Wow. Even I'm not that brutal.
I like it.
Nice.
And with that, how about some happy Thanksgiving stories or happy thoughts? Anybody?
I actually have one.
Amanda Bay has a happy Thanksgiving story.
I did. I had early Thanksgiving. We just got back last night from Tennessee. hung out with Jean's brothers and wives and some nephews and random people. Georgia won, thank the gods.
How many wives does Jean have?
Just me, but one of the brothers is on number 5, so he's doing the Jerry Farmer wife school, yeah. Tennessee.
Okay.
Tennessee, yeah, close to Utah, so, polygamy is my friend. Anyway, we survived.
Yay! Happy Thanksgiving, happy thought stories. It's Doug Ball.
3 punches, 3 birthdays.
3 birthdays.
Before Thanksgiving, and Sylvia and myself.
Yep.
I'll take 2 more because it's also Jimi Hendrix and Bruce Lee's birthday.
Okay, that's
So, tell them up.
Jimmy.
The rock and roll update. Anybody else? Happy Thanksgiving and happy thoughts. Magic Mike's got a.
Well, there's $2. So my $2 is for Sheriff Sanders.
$2 for Sheriff Sanders to apply towards your next driving school. You probably have to take driving classes each time after an accident. Yeah, I know I helped support Gary Edwards quite a
What are you
bit.
driving today?
I did buy a student driver magnet for my car. So that'll be on there.
There's one over there.
Yeah, just don't pass them, folks. Just tell them.
Who's up? Commissioner Gary.
I'm right here behind you, sir.
Commissioner Gary, like to play.
There you
There you go, sir.
I just want to point out how happy I am. We've got a sheriff that is out there kicking butt and doing the right thing. And you guys are very fortunate to have this gentleman. Thank you.
Miss Nina.
Okay, happy Thanksgiving, happy thoughts. Nina's up.
2.
I'm a past president, you always have to give me the microphone, right?
Right, yeah.
Spencer Zeman did not ask me to tell you this, but I'm going to tell you this. His job will no longer allow him to attend Rotary meetings from 7 to 8. This is our soon-to-be president-elect. He was told he could come to Rotary by person A, and now he's being told he cannot attend Rotary by person B. So, in the text message he sent me this morning, I think it's okay if I share this, he's looking for a new job. Keep Spencer in your thoughts. Thank you. Sure.
There you go, hiring.
They're hiring. Yeah.
Happy thoughts, Jerry Farmer.
The kitty's getting full.
Let's get a hold
Well, I know sometimes we're not aware of things that we should be thankful for. And Thanksgiving is coming up, so thanks to Dereck today, who's getting a selfie, or another person, another. So, see, he told me something that I need to be thankful for, and that is that I own both a 1999 Civic and a 2015 Kia.
You are the problem.
That's right. And neither me or any of my ex-wives have ever had those cars stolen. So thank you very much for showing me what I need to be thankful for. By the way, the Kia has an updated software package now, which I'm told will prevent the problem. I don't know. I've Slim Jimmed it a couple of times. It works pretty easy. So
There you go, Jerry. And is there one more?
Mike over here.
Oh, we got 2. Here we go.
I have $1 for being late. I have another $1 for Dereck Sanders and the work that they do. And the third thing that I'd like to share with you is my son has made chief in the nuclear navy.
The last Mike.
Okay, last one.
Oh, we got plenty. Mike?
Some years ago, a friend of my wife's in Anchorage was going to have her family over for Thanksgiving dinner. And she had a turkey in the freezer, and the morning of Thanksgiving, she took the turkey out to thaw out for the dinner. That didn't work so good.
Yeah.
And that was all.
Midnight Thanksgiving.
And with that, we'll go back to Mike Leonard.
Yay!
Please come back in 2 weeks or we'll have more cooking tips from Mike Robbins.
Nice job, Dave Dusak.
Yes, thank you, David. I know we have a raffle somewhere. Oh, there it is. Okay, good.
With new readable.
Oh, look at this.
I know.
New and improved.
Old people are running the back table, so they're making large font.